Emotional stability. Emotional stability is attained through inner conviction. This conviction results from our trust in our faith and the ideals we profess. This is what gives us a sense of spiritism. It reflects our firm spiritual belief and helps us to keep a stable, balanced attitude, regardless of the problems we must face along our evolutionary path. Emotional stability overcomes the fear generated by past eras. It also allows us to pursue our superior ideals and be of service to others whenever we wish to do so. It neutralizes environmental instability and helps us to face pressures or facilities with equal poise, refraining from excesses and extravagance. When aware of our mission on earth, we should set ourselves a goal and strive to attain it. We should neither stop nor run, but walk on firmly and steadily, never disturbing others. Our faith in the truth of everlasting life should help us to act serenely. Ask yourself what you expect from life, how you plan to achieve it, and why you want it. Appraise the contents of your aspirations and compare them with the teachings of the gospel. Then choose the most sensible course of action. Ponder over what you have been through, what you have already sown and reaped. If you are not sure about the right choice, stop and pray, seeking inspiration from the higher realms. Answers will certainly come that will enable you to perceive what is real and most convenient for you, how to achieve it, and why you want it. Your emotional stability needs prompt and deep care. Start to work inside yourself to renew your mental attitude. Decide with religiously to overcome sorrows and pains so that you may attain self-balance. Whatever you want intensely, you shall get. Do not put your plans off, nor wait for the future may bring. Act now. Today is your most precious moment. Tomorrow things will certainly be more difficult. You may be tired, frail, and fearful. Act on your new resolutions now. You will feel much better, as you will be taking your first step towards your emotional stability.
So we start our meeting today. We gather as we are in this ambient, prepared by those who anticipated us, the enlightened beings, the enlightened spirits, as brothers and sisters in humanity, ourselves and all of those in spirit who are with us, blessed with this unique and important moment in our existences. For one more study, moments of reflections, as students and learners as we all are, choose to study about the natural laws in the universe, choose to study about the Spiritism, which helps us to understand who we are, where we came from, what is the purpose on earth for us to be here, what is the objective of our existence, where do we go after our physical body dies. With the blessing of the enlightened spirits upon every and each one of us, asking to bless all this building, everyone who is in it, and also all of those who live around this place, this Spiritist center, and with the blessings of peace, light, and love, we start our study today. So be it. Welcome everyone as we carry on our studies as usually on weekly basis about the Spirit's book. We are all learners, all students, because we are all learning, and we are coming to the end of the book, which is the part of the conclusion which we already started. Yet the conclusion is very rich in terms of knowledge, which is a summary of everything what we learned already presented by Allan Kardec. And we just go through where we finished last week for us to situate ourselves, and then we take it from there. Where we finished the slide last week said, Spiritism is materialism's most dreaded enemy. Thus, it is not surprising that materialists are its adversaries. However, since materialism is a doctrine that is barely accepted by its own proponents, proof that they do not regard themselves sufficiently strong and that they have not completely taken leave of their conscience, they cover themselves with the mantle of reason and science. So now if we explore this paragraph regarding the conclusion, second part, when we read, when we heard, what is coming to our minds. First question that we can raise is why Allan Kardec says, Allan Kardec is the codifier of Spiritism, a French philosopher, educator, and he says that Spiritism is materialism's most dreaded enemy. Why? Imagine those who are studying with us who never heard of, we've never heard about Spiritism. So why is that? How could we explain that?
Because it emphasizes, it puts into light our hidden shadows. That's what Spiritism does, which is pride and selfishness. And materialism is based on selfishness. It's founded on pride. So when we're looking at those two aspects of our defaults as incarnate beings, when we have to look at that, then it's a choice. It literally is. And it's interesting to look at the two words together. Spiritism is materialism, just the two together. They seem so similar. They're isms, there's the similarity in the language, but they're so distinct. They're so different because of what they highlight, what they emphasize, and what they promote. So Spiritism is saying, let the self rise and take care of the ego, nurture the ego in a way that it's a child that needs to be disciplined, whereas materialism is saying the complete opposite. So that's why there is an
Okay. Anything else?
I remember we talked last week about reason and science. We talked about the scientific aspect of Spiritism. And one of the reason, the reason why the scientists, for example, hide themselves behind reason, we were questioning that, saying that what we regard as reasonable today may not be so. And we talked about how evolved these studies regarding the existence of the soul have evolved on Earth, even in the academic world.
Correct. So we are always telling us that we are immortal beings, and we all are, even those who don't believe in it, but we are all under the law of progress, which is a natural law that evolves everything and everyone. And that also means that the knowledge on any field on Earth, they also evolved. And as you well rightly said, we can see now from some years back where science is in relation to their discoveries, what they are finding out. But I think here merely consider 160 years ago when Allan Kardec wrote this book and codified it, it was referring to the two different aspects. What is the core of Spiritism? What is the core of materialism? What is it? Could I be right in saying the materialism is based on matter only, and Spiritism is based on spirit? So the two elements in the universe, but here materialism is pretty much, as we also came in our journey of evolution from previous experiences, understandings, and materialism is pretty much focused on the body, the life of this existence, and also a lot of the values still are pretty much based on selfishness and from a reductionist viewpoint. And the object of, let's say, study within the materialism viewpoint is the matter. And yet, Spiritism, the object of study is the spirit. Yes? And yet, materialism also brings the human science, and Spiritism talks about the divine science. Are the two the opposites?
They're not opposites. It's as if, and the way that you said it as well just now, Spiritism studying the spirit was it's limited. The materialistic has a limited view, and that's literally what it is. it's breaking those limits, you know, instead of just looking at the now, the here, and the perceptions around. When we expand that a little bit more and see that actually what this existence is only a comma in the book of life.
Precisely.
Whereas materialism brings almost aspiration, you know, if we're not achieving exactly what it is that material beings want to see.
Yes, it's quite a lot of despair within the reductionist view of life if sometimes we go through challenging experiences, because the viewpoint is very reductionist in relation to the real life, whereas Spiritism always helps us to understand that the physical existence where we are is under the spiritual reality, and all the experiences on earth are transitory. So whatever we go through as, let's say, challenging points in our learning, there is no reason to despair, because we know that sooner or later they will end. And within materialism, we don't have that knowledge. And human science is also evolving, as you rightly said, because human science is under this divine science. And as more as the human beings evolve within their own nature, which is spiritual, more they will also develop their own findings in relation to the real life, and also help to bring those knowledge for all of us to benefit from. But the enemy here is pretty much, because the Spiritism is dematerializing matter, if that makes sense. And that can be quite scary for those, and remember, for those we have been there in the past, for those who may be very attached to matter, very attached to positions, very attached to racism, very attached to whatever, money, very attached to whatever, power from a social position. That can be very challenging for those who may be starting to wake up and understand that actually sooner or later if I'm in a powerful position now, sooner or later will not be there. But not be there from a human level of understanding. But we are all invited gradually to develop the real power within, that we bring as immortal beings, as divine beings, that we bring the essence of love, because the greatest power in the universe is the love that comes from God, who embraces everyone and everything. Yeah?
And you know also another reason why, to me, it makes it so clear why Spiritism is, even spirituality is dematerializing matter, is because matter has its limits. And then once you reach a limit, and you can see scientists all around, just, well, we haven't got an answer for that. Why is that happening? We still don't have an answer. And to seek for somewhere else where it is. And one clear example is really a quick one. A friend of mine is having surgery, and she suffers from OCD, paranoia. And she said, I'm really scared I'm going to get an infection, doctor. I'm not sure what's going to happen. I'm going to get an infection. And the doctor turned around to her and says, look, said her name and said, look, if you tell the universe you're going to get an infection, you're going to get an infection. If you tell the universe you're not going to get an infection, you're not going to get an infection. And she's had contact with me with spirituality, and all of a sudden she's got this doctor telling her about the universe, who's completely confused, you know? But it's interesting to see that within something as serious as science, as a clinician, they're seeking something more.
They are. The way that I see it is not that matter is limited, is our knowledge in relation to matter which is limited. And we are hitting the head against the wall, because it's time for us to break through the paradigms, the concepts that we hold it so far, because they don't make sense anymore. Because matter in itself, how we perceive it, let's say the table, that is energy. But we see it as a table, yeah? And as more as we carry on discovering and exploring, we will find out that what we see so far, or what we've found on the materialistic level, that is just a tiny bit in relation to the reality that is already part of the world, although we may not see it with our physical eyes. So thank God that the law of progress and evolution is part in the universe for every creature, and we are also involved. And here we are studying Spiritism, which is the teachings that the Enlightened Spirits are already bringing to humanity. It's not just to us, the Spiritists, it's for humanity. And those who are in front in the scientific way level, in other areas, in other fields of knowledge, those are also spirits, and sooner or later coming back to earth, those who are more open to spirituality, who have great understanding about the natural laws, and they will influence science, knowledge in the education level, knowledge in the psychological field, knowledge in the psychiatry level, which all involves the psychic and the let's say the psychological and emotional being who is evolving beyond matter. So it's not that the matter is bad. We are here in the physical level in order for us to learn to interact and dematerialize our old belief systems, that we become more independent from matter as we spiritualize ourselves more. And in that way, matter is an instrument from God helping us to progress and evolve.
You remember, I was watching Yet the Show again, and there's a part there where one of the spirits that is incarnated just turned around and says, "Yes, but I went to church and I did all the church masses, and I did everything I had to do. Why is it that this doesn't make sense to me?" And we were talking about the spiritual experience of life, and put those two together. It's the way that we experience matter isn't spiritualized yet, isn't it?
We are very attached to matter yet, and we may bring in our concepts that those are, or this is the reality. When in reality, this is not the reality. But it makes sense. Yes, it's not the reality. The reality is the bigger reality, the spiritual universe, where Earth is one tiny part of. And all of us, we are, let's say, embedded in this love that comes from the Creator, from God, and we are all changing and progressing. And in that way, also, Spiritism brings very different meanings to certain experience to us. Why we suffer, why we go through certain experiences, why such and such experience happens to me and doesn't happen to my neighbor, or doesn't happen to other family member, or whatever. So we have great consolation within the studies of the Enlightened Spirits that is available to all of us to study.
Also, it's what came from it as well as in regard to Spiritism, the most dreaded enemy is also always thinking about abortion, because Spiritism goes against all the personal effects, all the experience we can use.
Correct. Even as we are in this country who receives us back again, we know that the human laws sometimes they may present some values, but the divine laws others. The divine laws always refer to life as essential and never to kill. And therefore abortion is not helping us, because we are responsible for that life who is evolving if we go and accept abortion. So human law is subordinated by divine law, and whatever may be right within human laws in one period, in one epoch, later on will change, because we are all awakening towards the natural laws. And also, especially, we bring all the natural laws within ourselves as well, even if temporarily through different levels of evolution where we find ourselves. We may not even consider it, we may negate it, we may refuse it, which we probably did also in the past, but there will come a moment for all of us that we will open up and understand more broadly what life is about and how important it is for us to re-educate ourselves in that way. Also understanding that what other people do today, we did yesterday for sure. So if you have a new understanding today, there is no reason in terms of feeling guilty or blaming each other. Spiritism is a teaching that brings light into our hearts and minds and works towards self-love, therefore self-forgiveness, and always learning through the experiences. Okay, then we carry on here. However, since materialism is a doctrine that is barely accepted by its own proponents, here is what we already discussed, what was said, yes? We all are changing, everything is changing, and those who are willing now to study about, because these days with the high technology, Spiritism is available to everyone who is seeking for it, because we can find the books of the codification available freely through the internet, or we can buy it. And then carry on now to the next one. Vanessa, would you like to read it for us, please?
Yes.
Yeah.
And what is even more bizarre is that the most skeptical go so far as to talk in the name of religion, which they also do not know or understand any better than Spiritism. Their target, in particular, is the extraordinary and the supernatural. They reject both. Their argument is that Spiritism is found on the extraordinary. It can be nothing more than foolish speculations.
Let's explore this paragraph now. What are we learning as we read, as we heard it? What is coming to us?
Logic understanding again, because if we study Spiritism with truly study it, we will see that it's not based on speculation, as we said last week, it's science, and that Kardec he saw all he experimented, he saw the manifestations, and then he wrote the book based on that. So it's not foolish speculation. I think these are also always lack of understanding when we criticize something.
Yes, it's the lack of understanding, and also as we see later on, it's still mixed with religion. And we are here always repeating that Spiritism is a science which deals with the nature, the origin and destiny of the spirits and their interaction with the corporeal life. So it is a science, really, when we study within the three dimensions, science, philosophy, and religion. So it's nothing to do with religion in relation to a church, for example. It has to do with the religiosity. And the three aspects that are interconnected.
If you understood that sentence at the top, it's even more bizarre that the most skeptical goes for us to talk in the name of religion, as if being the enemy of Spiritism, utilizing a religion, and then the spirits, I might be wrong on this, then it says they also do not understand them any better. So, because when we look at other religions, none of them, absolutely none of them, teaches us to judge others, or teaches us to reprimand others, or teaches us to go against what other people believe. They teach respect, they teach peace, they teach love, they teach understanding. So when people use religion to combat Spiritism, they're not understanding their own religion, and they're not understanding Spiritism for themselves.
Yes, that is could be the prejudice that we may bring temporarily from previous experiences, even if I don't believe in reincarnation. But we are all under the law of reincarnation, so our psychic, as Jung already said, when the child is born, it's not an empty sheet. There is already a written journal there. What he means is that we come back to a new physical body with all psychological and emotional experiences already there. So when we come back and we have been criticized in the past and not actualizing ourselves, those tendencies will be coming in evidence when we are, let's say, talking about it. And especially if we still are very rigid, if you still think that my religion is better than yours, which is pure rigidity, because that is not true. The different spiritual pathway, they are all journeys who lead everyone towards God in the end of the day. But they are different levels, different degrees for different spirits and evolution, which for now that makes sense or that makes sense. But if we criticize all of us, we are against the essence of religiosity, which is love and universal fraternity and goodness.
What happened? Because I'm trying to understand what's happening. We look at a lot of fanatics, and we have that God in Brazil, and I have in my family, to the extreme. And you see that the intention behind is to find religiosity, but for some reason it goes to the other extreme.
It is quite complex. Of course, every human being has their own history. Extreme or fanatism has to do with rigidity. And then when we go beyond that picture, within Spiritism, we also see the influence, as I just said. Spiritism is a science which deals with the nature, origin, and destiny of the spirits and their interaction with the corporeal world. So whatever every one of us thinks and feels, we are connected with other spirits who quite often are out of the physical body. And those who don't like the evolution of love on the planet through the human beings, through the beings, they may also influence, if we allow that to happen, to go on the wrong pathway, let's say. But usually the patterns, we carry them on our unconscious level, which connects them with others equally. And that is temporary, because sooner or later, every human being will free themselves, as we also, from all the concepts that are against the natural laws of the universe.
I had my period in life when I wanted everyone to believe in Spiritism. Until one day I read about one of the nuns, and she said, when we want everyone to believe in what we believe, it's because we don't believe ourselves. So we want everyone to validate it,
Yes.
so we can have kind of security.
Yes, that is right. And that usually happens when we start at the beginning. We are all a little fanatic. I went through that period as well, because we want to convince others, and then we think that we are holy in doing that, which is a complete mistake. Later on, we wake up and say, my God, what is that about? Yeah, it's a nightmare. But that is the journey that we go through. And you rightly said, as the Spirit Benefactor said, when we have that tendency, it's because we are not convinced within. Once we actualize ourselves to the rational conscious mind in relation to our unconscious lies and limitations, then we are centered and align ourselves with the universe, and therefore we don't have the need anymore to convince anyone. If people want to follow us, okay, because the Spiritism is not interested in getting hundreds and hundreds of people into the Spiritist center. That's not our objective. Very on the contrary, Spiritism is in nature, is everywhere. And Spiritist centers are places where we gather in order to study Spiritism. So those who are open, those who are willing, they will come. And that really leaves us in a very healthy state internally, instead of that rigidity and pressure. Oh, why are you not doing that? No, let go. Everyone will do it when it's the right moment, even if it takes centuries, as it did for us. Yeah? Anything else that you take from here? Supernatural. What do we understand within Spiritism regarding supernatural?
I think supernatural is what we regard as everything that is against the natural law, but especially when we read Genesis, where it explains, like even the acts of Jesus' life, why it is not supernatural, and he gives us again an understanding why Spiritism is not supernatural.
Mm-hmm.
It's just an extension of the explanations of the natural laws. So there is no supernatural. There's again this lack of understanding.
So within our level of evolution, as we came also from the materialistic experiences through centuries and centuries, and we too see life but our five senses can perceive. Whatever is beyond that, we also in the past or in the present qualified as supernatural. As more as we carry on is studying the natural laws in the universe, we will incorporate that supernatural as a natural experience, because it's under the natural laws. It's almost like when we free ourselves from our ignorance. And ignorance in the sense of not knowing, not having knowledge, not understanding. But again, as we are all under the law of evolution, as Darwin already presented, sooner or later we will all free ourselves from those belief systems.
You know, the same way that spirits say that our language is limited to explain certain things, it's the same. Our language and our knowledge has been limited into understanding so much of what has been called the supernatural. So as our process as spirits, incarnate spirits on earth, we've put codes and names and different things. And the beauty of what Allan Kardec does is he gathers all of them and he explains, well, actually, goblins, gremlins, vampires, yeah, they do exist. But it's not as the fantasy that's put around it. Let's demystify it. Let's look at what it is. And there's nothing supernatural about it. What we're talking about is this, and breaking it down. And when we look at the studies, the profound studies that's been done, and it's available to us, like you said, about things that has brought us fear, things that have been used to manipulate us as ways of directing us because we don't want to be caught by the bad and all of that. If we just studied, you know, there'll be so much more peace of mind without trying to be perfect. But there's so much more peace of mind in knowing where we are in these scales and what's happening around, you know?
Much more peace of mind, much more tranquility, less stress. Once we understand life from a transpersonal perspective, as I mentioned previously, as we mentioned last week, because we went through history that the intellectual intelligence was everything. And then as everything and everyone evolves, we carry on and suddenly came across Daniel Goleman, who presented the emotional intelligence, telling us that it's not sufficient just to be a genius if you don't know yourself, who you are with your emotions. Then we carry on studying emotions. So we know now to give names for some emotions. But if we know intellectual about and know the emotions, but if I don't know more, I still can get stuck in life. Now we are in a stage where we are already achieving the third intelligence here, which is the spiritual intelligence, which will help us gradually to give different meanings to the set of experiences that we go through and values from a deeper level. And in that way, our lives become more significant. The emptiness that we carry, that we will free ourselves. We also find consolation within that, understanding that we are coming from a past experience and are back to just continue to evolve, not to be punished, not to suffer, although the pain sometimes is part, but how we address the experience will change. So the intellectual intelligence is important, the emotional intelligence is important, but we need to go further now to understand that we are psychological, emotional, and spiritual beings. And in that way, the journey back to earth, diving into here, is for us to evolve. And the experience that come to us is not to punish, is not to bring suffering, is to, let's say, free ourselves with different layers from the ego, that we come closer to our own essence, which is divine, where the divine power lies within us. Yeah? And then we carry on, as we said already, the final here. So in that way, we carry on to the next paragraph. Cynthia, would you like to read it?
They do not seem to realize that by putting the extraordinary and the supernatural unreservedly on trial, they also put religion on trial, for it too is founded on revelation and miracles. And not revelation, but extra human communications. All the sacred authors King Moses have spoken of such communications.
Okay, let's explore that paragraph. What is coming to our minds when we read that?
And I really like it. I like the way that we're reminded about this the revelations being extra-human communication, you know? Because it's been so long where we've looked you're either, part of this spiritual that's out of the Lord, or you're in the real thing, which is the church or whatever it is that's believed. But there is exactly what we're teaching. I mean, it's nice to see everything kind of, it's there, it's all together, you know?
It's just
there's
giving...
no difference there. There's no difference there.
Mm-hmm. And it's just giving different meanings to the same experiences, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Because when you look within the evolution of everything and everyone, when he said here, in relation to miracles, when we came from a previous stage of understanding, we also believed in miracles, didn't we? Depending where we are. So now within the science of Spiritism, how do we understand miracles?
We still have like John God, which isn't a spiritist, but is a spiritual being, which we know. And we'll look at that and can we explain it, really, what he does? I cannot explain it. I don't know exactly what it is that happened. It's a science that we're still so oblivious to. But it's seen as miracle, so people miracle is that which is not understood, but not something that is mystical. I don't know if that makes sense, that way of looking at it.
Anybody else?
I was thinking for me, when I read the books that Kardec wrote, and then when I went back to read the Old Testament, it's so funny, not funny, but it's so interesting to see all sorts of, like you can say, leadership manifestations that we regard as miracle. For example, in the book of Daniel, there was a point when something happened and then a hand materialized and wrote a message. And we call this of a miracle, but we see that, we understand today, it's not a miracle, it's just a leadership manifestation.
Precisely.
For a physical effect.
Precisely.
So interesting to read it,
Yeah.
and then go back and read it.
Yeah.
It
Very,
makes no sense.
very well said. The miracles in the past were being perceived because, again, the experiences were beyond our five senses. So we could not understand. And we didn't have understanding about the spiritual reality either. So we didn't know how good, so we name it miracles. But now within the science of Spiritism, miracles are experiences under the natural law in the universe. Again, as you said, mediumship, the communication between the spirits, the certain phenomena that do happen, they are part of the natural ability that certain spirits, either incarnate or not, have in interacting with the natural laws. And as more as we study, we demystify that, and it becomes more natural. Yeah?
And if we read dark pages, you can see that all the manifestations are almost the same that we have today.
Yes.
It's just a different way of saying it.
Yes, the different way how we name it now. And again, that is why actually the Enlightened Spirits are blessing humanity in bringing the teachings through Spiritism here to help us to have a different understanding with the same experiences now, more from a transpersonal, holistic way of living and not only materialistic. All the sacred authors since Moses have spoken of such communications. When we study religiosity or religion, sometimes even philosophy, we will find out that, yes, that the guys, let's say in the past already mentioned that. Do we remember some guys? Here was mentioned Moses. Who else? We spoke about such communications. More recent ones.
I was thinking about the one who wrote the method. What is it called?
The method.
Yeah, I forgot his name.
I don't know.
It wasn't 15th century. I forgot because I studied in university and I was studying the leadership for 2 years. And in like 1540, he was talking about the amygdala and the manifestation of the soul and everything. And I was like not believing in all the manifestations of the spirit. And he, like 500 years ago, was already like really believing in it. And he was a doctor, a mathematician, a scientist.
Precisely, but this. Who? Descartes, okay, yes. But this is what the Enlightened Spirits carry on teaching us constantly, that what the Spiritism brings to earth or to humanity is nothing new. What is new is the language that they presented, but they are the old beliefs that are already the old, let's say, doctors, philosophers, great studies who did it in the past. Plato, we have Plato. When we study the Gospel according to Spiritism, he's just part there presenting. Socrates is also great study. Jung already also studied the spiritual manifestation, the mediumship, he talked in his books. So when we study, we see really there is no new knowledge, it's just new ways of expressing the old knowledge. And that is merely because we are evolving. And the old ways of sometimes the words doesn't make much sense to us anymore. So they bring a new way and also expand it to the point that we cannot have any doubt anymore.
You know, we talk a lot about science, but when we look at arts, the arts, the other day I was thinking about it, how many brilliant artists have been inspired by amazing spirit. John Lennon, conjured up the Let It Be song in a dream, apparently in a dream, you know. You've got, I haven't got a list of them now, I did it just right up, but the one that I'm remembering now is I was watching a movie, and it was talking about reincarnation, and it was a medium, and she's remembering her past lives, and it's a beautiful classical movie with musicals and everything in the 1950s. And then another thing that we're being invited is to constantly think is that everything is being inspired by the superior or someone. You know, what is it that we're giving attention to? Because it's there. You're saying sacred authors, but just the artists. There's so many artists out there trying to spread spirituality. They're trying to spread the idea that there's more than just the matter. And we just need to be aware, you know?
All of those who already in the past were able to perceive those inspirations, and even those in these days were open to perceive these inspirations, because as I mentioned previously, Spiritism being a science who deals with the nature, origin, and destiny, with the spirits and their communication with the corporeal world, that means that no artist, no scientist, no philosophers are working alone. They are constantly under divine inspiration, or the inspiration by those more evolved, more enlightened, helping to develop the new thinking, the new beliefs, the new theories, so that we evolve and advance. It's quite natural within the natural laws. Okay, are we ready to move on? Then we carry on to the next one now. Cynthia, would you like to read that one?
And what are miracles except extraordinary and supernatural events for excellence? Since according to their theological definition, they are derogations from the laws of nature. The fact is that in rejecting the extraordinary and the supernatural, they reject the very basis of religion itself. However, it is not from this aspect that we wish to consider the subject.
Okay, what are we learning through this paragraph now?
And, you know, if we think about the laws of nature, they're perfect. So there's no way of going against the laws of nature. That's the argument that some people that choose to use logic will say, well, if you believe in the supernatural, you're going against the natural laws of nature. Whereas we know the laws of nature is within the laws of God, and there's perfect. What I heard the saying the other day is every rule has an exception, and the only exception to every rule is love.
This one.
You know, so if we know that the laws of God is love, then we're missing out. Then there isn't an exception to the rule, because the rule is perfect. You know, if something is happening, we're not able to explain it. It's not against the natural laws. It's us that is needing to rise ourselves up, or open ourselves, or maybe empty ourselves of so much preconceptions before, you know, saying that
I think when we reject, the way that it comes to me, and certainly we also did that if you're not doing it today, it's because we are still fragmented internally in relation to the whole. Is that making sense? Because we see through history, there was a time back there that science and religion was in one. Yeah? And then we moved on, and then we split. So religion cannot work with science or vice versa, correct? And now we are in a stage again, no, the two go together, as much so as Spiritism also tells us. So as more as we evolve and unite our thinking according to the natural laws, there is no such a thing that this field of knowledge shocks with this one or vice versa. It is all interconnected. And I think in that way we will not reject one thing and another, but we see it complementary.
We see that in Paul of Tarsus while he's going through his process. And what was the name of his tutor? He went through his process, and I remember there was a part in the book where Paul was shocked with the way that his tutor had changed his way of thinking, because he's starting to try and understand about this Messiah that everybody is about. And this is somebody that's always been very strict to the laws of Moses. And his process in his expanding his knowledge and the sharp report, and if we see that, we're constantly going through that, trying to unite our understanding of what is reality, because the minute we distance ourselves and say that there's only one, then we limit. There's a limit, there's a limitation.
We split, let's say, our values. Weaken, therefore weaken, and we're missing out a lot. That those parts that we reject. It's almost like the life is like a puzzle. And then if we reject one part, we disconnect that connecting point, which leads us to different connections, which needs to happen throughout evolution. Is that making sense? Yeah? Anything else? Okay. No? Then we carry on to the next one. Then would you like to read it, please?
Spiritism does not have to examine whether or not there are miracles. That is, whether God can be in certain cases break the eternal law that governs the universe. In that respect, it leaves everything to freedom of belief. On the contrary, Spiritism states and shows that the phenomena on which it is based are only supernatural in appearance. To certain individuals, such phenomena do not appear natural, because they are unusual and outside the orbit of known events.
Okay, what are we learning now through this paragraph? Why doesn't the Spiritism need to examine whether or not there are miracles?
You know, the thing is, yeah, I keep on thinking the patience the spirit beings have with us, really. It's so much patience because it's so simple. We complicate things with our complexities. You know, if we break down each teaching and we have a doubt about a single one, all we need to do is go out and try and study it, isn't it?
And here again, we are reminded what we previously referred to the natural laws. The natural laws are God's laws, which govern everything and everyone, everywhere in the universe. Yeah. God can, in certain cases, break the eternal laws that govern the universe, of course, and He created them. In that respect, it leaves everything to freedom of belief. And then we go back to the gospel according to Spiritism, the viewpoint of everyone has according to their level of understanding life. And that is what we come back here again, because our understanding is according how much we can understand about the natural laws. As more I study and more I understand, my viewpoint will be broader. As less I study or more prideful and selfish I am, more limited I am. But still, the law is the same for everyone, everywhere.
And if we study just the first questions of the Spirit's book, when they talk about what is God and the attributes of God, if God is perfect, how can He break His own law?
Precisely. And He creates them, yes. Mm-hmm.
And you know, when we're thinking about the religious said now, the pride and selfishness is going to limit our understanding, isn't it?
Yes, as more, because we evolve as we understand through reason and emotion, the two wings of evolution. Because it's not only through the intellectual intelligence that we evolve. If I'm shut down emotionally, I have a half truth. Let's put it like that. Because
Dangerous and alive.
very, very dangerous, because then I have a misunderstanding, misinterpretation about the laws, about the knowledge, about life in itself. So as more as we develop psychologically and emotionally, and therefore spiritually, we will break through the limitations that we bring from previous existences, from previous learnings, that we all have limits. Because especially we coming from a materialistic viewpoint. And so now as more as we study, and in a humble way, because we need to develop humility in order to recognize, oh my God, I thought in that way, but now we study. That is not so. When we really seek to develop humbleness, then it becomes easy to break free from those blockage points that we bring. Where the blockage points on the bottom line are the pride and selfishness and the personal interest. And the personal interest. But the personal interests are also linked with selfishness. How can I now, if I always said, well, life is in that way, and now suddenly I need to say, no, sorry, I did a mistake, I was wrong, because now we study and it's different. And yet when we learn to be humble, that is very easy. Up to now, I understood it in that way. From now onwards, I understand it in that way. Certain that tomorrow onwards, we will understand it in a different way. Because when we are reflecting on a broader perspective that we are on planet Earth, which is a planet of trials and expiations, and yet is a very primitive, for sure, all of us, we need to actualize our thinking more and more throughout our existences, yes? Anything else? What was I looking here? The last paragraph. To certain individuals, such phenomena do not appear natural because they are unusual and outside the orbit of known events. Is there anything else that we can say here? Orbit, outside the orbit of known events.
Outside of the comfort zone.
Outside of the comfort zone, outside of what we learned from our family background, outside what we learned from our society where we have been brought up, outside of what we learned even academically. And now here we are with the possibility to expand ourselves.
It's almost part of our imperfection, isn't it? To latch on to something even if it's not truth, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Even if it's limited. It's interesting to think about this. For instance, when you think of people that study a certain field, and it's just their field, and that's it, and there's nothing else, you know? And
This is what
is it the spirit? Is it the pride and selfishness, or is it immaturity? What is it that we're? I don't know.
I think we still are with all the respect, very ignorant. And ignorant means without knowledge, without a global knowledge in relation to ourselves to start with. Because if I don't believe that I'm an immortal being, immortal spirit, who already lived centuries and centuries and centuries and carry lots of knowledge, but yet I'm still on the starting point, how would I admit that my truth may be not right? My knowledge may not be right. So I hold myself very tight in a selfish way that that is the truth, that is the final finding. When we start to flexibilize ourselves, we change gradually. The beauty is that all of us will sooner or later follow that pathway because that is the natural pathway of evolution. Okay? And then we carry on still on the conclusion, second part, the next paragraph, which says, however, they are no more supernatural than all the other phenomena for which today's science is providing an explanation and which appeared extraordinary in early times. All spirit phenomena, without exception, are consequences of general laws. They are revealed to us one of the forces of nature, an unknown force, or rather, one that has not been understood until today, but one that observation has shown to be in the overall scheme of things. What is this paragraph now teaching us, apart from what we explored already?
Spiritism is part of the natural laws.
Spiritism is part of the natural laws. Why?
Because we only had, let's say, beliefs based on the matter, because this is what we knew before. There was no understanding of our spiritual nature. But in starting from our spiritual nature, we understand now that all the phenomena we regard as supernatural miracles are just natural laws. It's part of laws.
So we also are understanding that Spiritism is within the natural laws, that they are no ghosts, they are spirits. Yeah? Because sometimes you also think, oh my God, ghosts. I told you the other day I have the experience in a project where I'm involved, and someone was there, and somehow he's always coming close to me. I noticed that, and he came one day and he said, you know, I did have some experiences with real ghosts. And I say, I need to hold myself because my eyebrows really went up quickly. I positioned myself, ghosts. And I say, yes, even he said, ghosts. Wait a minute, what do you mean ghosts? And then, when is it? Ghosts. No. What do you mean actually by ghosts? And then he became a bit awkward and said, you mean spirits? Of course. And so please don't call me ghost, because we are spirits. I joked about it. I said, I'm a spirit, you are a spirit, we are all spirits. And then he carried on telling about his experience. But it's just normalizing the experiences, yes? The mediumistic phenomena that we can see the spirits, others can hear the spirits, others can feel it. That is natural for all of us. There is nothing supernatural, yes? We are spirits in itself.
However, there is something very unknown to us, and we're constantly being invited to try to understand it, and that's where Spiritism comes to support us in this journey of finding out what mediumship is, what spirituality really is. I'm really fixated on that sentence from the difference between living a religious experience and a spiritual experience. You know, and that's what we're being invited to.
Yes, the religion experience would be much more related to, let's say, a church or a place on a physical level, yeah? But the spiritual is internal. The church is internal. Let's say spirituality is an internal journey in relation to the external. And it's not only going to a place and knowing to talk about things, but bringing that internal to us and stimulating those sacred potentials that we bring and choose to live with the relationship with us and others accordingly. That making sense? It's a self-exploratory, inner journey that we go through.
And that's the purpose of it, isn't it?
That is the purpose.
It's not just for entertainment. No. It's not just for the sake of it. There's a purpose behind it. And the purpose is our birth in national, spiritual, psychological,
That reminds me, what are the purpose of the mediumistic phenomena? I just said. You just said, waking up spiritually. But when we are based still on a materialistic way, we joke about. And then we are also connecting with these spirits who are around, yeah? I did have another example of the day. Someone was always around me in the day there, and I found it awkward. Everyone, how are you? How are you? And very bubbly. And I said, yeah, carry on, yeah. But I carry on, and things went on, everything is evolving, and suddenly it was an empty place where we were, and he came, look at this. And he took his hand out, and he has a, how do you say, guardanapo? You have a napkin, and it was a blue one that came down, really one, and then he opened his next other hand, and the napkin went into and he shut his hand, and nothing you couldn't see, and suddenly he opened, was nothing there. And then Medium's book helps us to understand those phenomena and those who are behind those phenomena, how we, when we study, can help to know how to interact with that and not take it in a frivolous way. And then I kept it very neutral because immediately I knew what it was, and I went on doing what I was to do. And later on, I heard a lot of laughter, and I said, "What's going on here?" And I looked back, and he was with his show there, having a public where he was demonstrating, and everyone was laughing, finding these, let's say, phenomena, supernatural. How blessed we are within Spiritism when we study Medium's book, which helps us to understand the spiritual, mediumistic phenomena under the natural laws in the universe. Okay? So we carry on the next one. Spiritism, therefore, lies less on the extraordinary and supernatural than religion itself does. Those who attack it at this point do not comprehend it, and even if they were highly learned, we would still have to say to them, if your science, which has taught you so many things, has not taught you that the realm of nature is infinite, you are but pseudo-scholars. What do we understand? Here Allan Kardec is challenging us, isn't it? How could we translate Allan Kardec's words here?
It must be really hard for people who are scholars to receive a message like that, isn't it?
And I guess Allan Kardec was quite strong in terms of presenting those arguments there and then, because even today sometimes it's hard. Imagine 160 years back in history how the roots of science, human science, was very fixed, because these days still there's more openness going on around. But yes, challenging.
In the book as well, What is Spiritism, where Kardec is asked questions and then he answers. He always said that if we don't believe or if we don't understand Spiritism, it's usually a lack of understanding. Because the same questions was repeated many times. And he said, this question, like, there is an answer for this question, but if you keep asking the same questions, because where is this question coming from?
Mm-hmm.
Because if you read this or that, there won't be this question.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's the same here, because it says the Spiritism, therefore, lies less on the extraordinary and supernatural than religion itself does, because we already have more answers to questions that you may not find in other fields. But here we do.
Correctly, well said. As more as we carry on studying, and I think the reason that in that book that you mentioned, also in the Spirit's book, throughout the 1019 questions, the reason is to always bring different questions from different angles to help us to clarify any doubt. Because still, why is that? Merely through our ignorance or limitation, also our materialistic viewpoints in relation to the natural laws. So it's helping us to expand our consciousness. And as more as we carry on study, that will happen as a natural process. But without study, we just know what we acknowledge now. Carry on study means that we will break through all belief systems. And in that way, we are coming to the end today on our time here. And as more as we carry on now through our final moments, giving thanks to God, the Creator, to Jesus, our friend and guide, to the enlightened beings, our brothers and sisters, for this unique and enriched moment in our lives, in our existences, where we choose to reflect about the natural laws, reflect about the teachings from the enlightened beings, which are the teachings of Jesus that brings the knowledge from the truth that comes from God. Our gratitude for our own existence, for understanding our immortality, for understanding that we are all loving beings in essence, that we are all evolving and progressing, either on earth or everywhere else. Our gratitude for the knowledge that helps us to understand that we are sacred in nature, that we bring in a natural way the ability to actualize ourselves as immortal beings, beings essentially of goodness, created by God with love in order to learn to love ourselves, to learn to love others, to learn to love life and value it as learners of ourselves as we continuously are. Our gratitude for our parents who allowed us to be here once more in this existence, carry on our journey of evolution. Our gratitude for all of those who are part in our pathway. Our gratitude for everything and everyone in our journey as we continue to learn as brothers and sisters in humanity, asking Jesus to bless every one of us here today and always. So be it. In that way we are coming to the end.